Hey internet, we're here to talk about Camp Nanowrimo in April of 2020, yay! I have been writing since the 13th of January and only missed a handful of days this year, so like the idea of writing every day for camp hasn't been daunting. The issue with writing every day for camp is that I have gone into revision mode, which I wasn't meant to do. So here were my initial plans for camp. I was going to work on the novella for my story that I'm writing, and I was going to write the back half of the story from Tamana's perspective, because when I zero drafted her for most of Act 2, I hadn't written anything, hardly anything in Act 3, like literally nothing in Act 3. And I knew I needed to go back and do that so that she could have her full zero draft just like Freya did, but Freya was zero drafted without the back end as well, just like the front really fleshed out, midpoint, and knowing everything else that happens and the last couple of scenes. And oh, that's been fixed because I've written all hers, but now with the zero draft with Tamana, she's missing the same plot holes, like the same length of writing that wasn't done. So I think Freya had a little bit more. But Tamana's also involved in Freya's chapters, so I know where she is, so it's not too terrible. It's still terrible. It's still terrible. And then that all changed on the 3rd of February, 3rd of April? Why do I keep thinking it's February? I finished the story and then I was like, I'm gonna write the novella. Just gonna work on it for a bit. I'm gonna give this space before I start editing or before I start writing Tamana, but if I get inspiration for Tamana, I'm gonna start writing her. And then I was going to write a scene, but I remembered that I mentioned it in a different scene, which I think is chapter 3. And then I proceeded to read the entire book from chapter 3. Then I went, no, most of it. And then I went back and I read the entire thing again from chapter 1 and edited it at the same time. Because all of a sudden I didn't feel insecure about editing it, even though I just finished it, because it'd been so long since I started it. I wanted to go through and do like line edits and a few different cleanup edits throughout the first act that I noticed real issues with. In the second and third act, I saw all my big picture issues. And I was like, well, I have no issue with picking out my flaws. Let's fucking do this. There are no darlings that I really want to hold on to, although a couple of things do have to be held on to. There was a lot of it that I was fine with changing and a lot of places where I saw issues. And because I reread it and I was reading Freya's, I got to a point where I was like, why the hell did I put this scene in? It's towards the end of Act 3, I believe. It could be towards the end of Act 2, I believe. It could be the start of Act 3. I needed conflict. So I made conflict with Freya, and as I was reading, I was like, this doesn't work for the rest of the story. I don't like it. I can do something little here, but not something like this. Also, that goes against what the characters themselves would do. How the hell did I get this idea? Oh, I was in a mood. And this would be the ideal spot for like a big conflict for Tamana. Like, we just got the come down of something for Freya. We're building up to her next one, which is probably why I put in all this filler. That's where we need stuff happening with Tamana. Also, that feels right for where I think she'd be on the journey, hence I'm editing. I've stalled at the moment because I'm working on the first 2 chapters of Act 2, which has a lot of Tamana in it and a lot of my too much Jean, and that I think I've got done. There's 1 or 2 things that I need to comb through because I've mentioned certain parts of it so much in this first 2 blocks that needs fixing. I went through and I've written it twice now, those 2 scenes. The first one was pretty okay and I had them all as one, so I separated them. And the second one needed a lot more work, especially like I wrote the first bit and then I realized like, oh no, I took out that stupid stuff that I want to talk about later. And I put in this stupid stuff that she needs to learn later. She can't learn it here or it ruins a lot of stuff. I'm now torn because I'm on Freya's next scene and she has one part where like she's been unconscious for a little bit for the last 2 scenes. She comes back to recognition and I'm trying to decide if I should separate that with something from Tamana's perspective, but I don't know what I'd want to put in there other than observation of the camp. And it's not really necessary. I don't think it propels the plot forward, so I just need to rewrite Freya's better. And because I've worked on that scene a little bit more, that's a little bit harder for me to do, but I'm working through it. I also realized there is something that was always going to happen. And I have a couple of songs picked out for this scene and I've written it from Freya's perspective and I fucking love it. And the core of that scene doesn't change. What happens after changes. I liked this like she faces her demons, and then and in doing that, we get the tools that we need to try and fight these other guys. And then she's so powered up, and then she nearly loses someone, but in that also kills a lot of people. And I liked the scene of them all sitting there reminiscing, but as I was writing it, I was like, I love this. As I was reading it, sorry. It's like, I love this, but it could be done in another way. And it's just been tucked in the back of my mind that like, it needs a bit of tweaking from the point, like, she goes to the thing, she faces her demons. From there until her man's killed needs to be tweaked, shortened, fixed. And then I can bring the other stuff in later on that I really needed to cover there. That's fine. Today, I worked it out. I started work at 6 this morning. I never start work at 6 this morning. I was starting at 7:30 and now 8, and I am a night owl. I don't like waking up in the morning, so how the hell I woke up at 5:30, I will never know. I live not even 10 minutes away from work. And it was 5:30 in the morning, and I wasn't going to get dressed nice or anything. I wasn't going to wash my hair. I don't care. At the end of the day, I mean, if you don't like it, jump off a fucking cliff. It was this feeling that at the end of the first act, we leave our main protagonist and we don't get to see him again till the battle, but we get to see his army, I'm going to go with that, and his influence throughout the rest of it. And I have Freya dealing with like this PTSD and his emotions and all this stuff, but there's no real like callback to him or reminder of him apart from small things that people do or phrases that they say that really trigger her. She does not want to be called a good girl. Don't fucking call her a good girl, or she might stab you. It depends who you are. If you're not 4 people, she will stab you. And like the 5th, she's gonna try real hard not to stab him, but she's gonna stab him. I needed a way to have him as a reminder. Also, I had this great idea in one of the battle scenes where I was like, oh, they're trying to draw her out, but how the fuck does he know that would work? He doesn't. There is no way that he should know that would work. Also, it's not dangerous enough. I need to heighten that. But it just doesn't make sense until I remember this scene. And then it's kind of a harken back to a really traumatic event that happened in her life and how she had to deal with it, which in my view is kind of like how Tamana's had to deal with a lot of stuff and how she's had to deal with things up until this point. Up until the end of Act 1 where she turned around and went, I can now do something about this. I'm going to start doing something about this. I needed a way to have her come into her own again and to show that she could overcome this and show her bloodlust and her want or her desire to end him and why, and not just tell you it. I also needed it for a relationship progression. Like there's a line that I say later on where someone's like, he's the only person that I've seen be able to pull you away from the front lines or a fight. And we don't see that. If anything, he's just like, well, if you're gonna be in this fight, I'm gonna be in this fight. I needed a point for him to kind of pull her out of her own mind, speak some sense into her, but also for her to face her demons and be able to do something about it and see her unhinged. Because like she is unhinged in a lot of us in little ways, but she always had a plan, always has plans. At this point, and the next point that really hurts her, ooh, it's great, I needed it to hit hard. I needed there to be more of an emotion, like she goes just fucking, need to work, need to get through this, head down, cutting herself off from people because all she needs to do is this and she doesn't care and she's real depressed and in a dark hole. I needed more of a reason for that than experiencing, like facing her trauma from the past, which is a valid reason. But for this, I wanted her to face 2 traumas at once because I'm a lovely human. And he is one of the reasons at the core of why this trauma happened in the first place. And I think just to bring him back in and see him in that is beautiful and poetic. And that's what I decided to do. So before she like sent everyone off and faced this on her own and had all this magic like that she couldn't do anything with, it was starting to eat her alive. And she funneled it in protecting people, which is sweet, it's real sweet. But instead of doing that, I think, also because the next attack that happens that nearly kills one of her men, that really shakes her to her core as well, it doesn't have the same urgency as this. It doesn't make as much sense. whereas this makes a lot of more sense. So I want to have like her still send everyone off, but in a different direction, towards the danger, it turns out, different danger, and for her to face it, but for the character that pulls her away from the front lines to be there as her voice of reason. And that's what he was always meant to be, kind of her voice of reason. She's also his voice of reason. It's very even and stuff, but I needed to show it. And I think this will show it, so I'm really excited to get back to that scene. And just, I don't have a full idea of what's going to happen. I have a vague idea where he's going to be like, something isn't right. You can't just run into this fight. I will let you run into any fight your heart desires, but not this one. And sort of have it break her down more, because she nearly made a stupid mistake. And then in just almost making that stupid mistake, someone that she cares about almost dies. Or I could kill him, but I'm not gonna kill him. I already killed so many other people. Like 3 main characters, so like at the moment are written deaths, and a few other not notable ones. A lot of other dies. I need to like have that affect her more. Ooh, 4, 5. I kill people. I like it. I like seeing protagonists deal with death in different ways. So this one's an almost loss, but she knows that another loss is about to come, which is why it affects her so deeply. And because the part of this trauma is dealing with a big loss that she had when she was young, really fucks with her. I shouldn't say that with a smile, but it's like, I love the idea of the writing of it, okay? Okay, ooh, 6. I just remembered someone else that does. Shit. I love it. I'm not changing it. In fact, I might kill a few other people. Because it's realistic. At the end of the day, people die. And there's a death goddess, so even though there's a whole fucking army that dies at one point, we need to bring in more death that affects her locally, as well as like economically. So yeah, that like shows that. I also want it to, it makes other things, like why she had to get these tools, more obvious as well, because then you see the immediate change in her when she goes into the next fight, where she all of a sudden has this knowledge again and is able to use it where she couldn't use it before, and it exhausted her. It's so much easier for her to use now, but it's also not easy. And could be why he sees the magic that he later uses as a trap for her that doesn't work, but I'm still considering making it work. Or just showing how it works. I like introduce this ultimate weapon and then just destroy it. I don't show it being used. It's just like, oh yeah, we know what it does. I have an issue with writing things and knowing what's happening and then going back and having to show it. That's why when I first wrote this book, it's her entering the castle again, and then she doesn't leave it for the entire first act. And you don't get to see her being a badass. Like, you hear she's a badass, you hear she can fight, you hear she can kill men any day of the week, every day of the week, every hour of the day if she wanted to. But you don't get to see it. You don't get to see her commanding her men. You don't get to see any of that. So I moved it back first to be like right at that scene. And then I've moved it back again so you can see how they work as a unit, and then the killing. Apart from that, it starts with Tamanna now and not Freya at all, which I like, because you kind of, it's like an introduction into this world, an introduction into what's happening, and it's more of a setup also because Tamanna's a bit more of a flowery character and a bit more metaphoric, a lot more metaphoric. She loves metaphors. And it's just the way she sees the world, and it delights me so much, and I hate it so much. But like, it's that you love it but you hate it thing. It's not too much. When it gets too much, I have to stop. But also with that, occasionally I'll have other characters talk real metaphoric to her, and that helps me understand the world, because I also love metaphors and hate them so much. I'm like, apparently that's how I work. And Freya is very not metaphors. She might use one here or there when she's talking to Tamanna, but that's the only time I'm having her use metaphors. She doesn't, she's very black or white, but also like very accepting of things. She's not like, well, you're like a bee. She's more like, yeah, you're a murderous swine. Tamanna's like, they're a wasp. And I'm like, Jesus Christ. It makes sense, okay? Trust me, it makes sense, it works. So that's that plan. I also have, I didn't know what got Tamanna from point A to point B after she leaves the camp, because I had the realization that I have her like, up until this point, she's reacting to everything, and she still reacts to everything. But she doesn't have a desire to be at the end point of this story. The end point of this story has never crossed her mind. The only thing that I could come up with it was she's defeating the big bad. Of course, it's not even that big bad. We've killed the big bad. And there's another big bad, and she's just dealing with like the daughter of the big bad. Why would she do it? It didn't make sense. And now I've hit on it. There's been a couple of sentences that I've said throughout the story for her where I've been like, she's never been this. She wants to be, but she realizes she's useless. That's her thing at the moment. Freya was struggling with it before and actively fighting against it this entire time, that she can show she is not a pretty doll for you to play with and she will kill you. Whereas Tamana has to get out of the habit of being a pretty doll and just going with the flow and working her way around to stay alive. She doesn't know how though, because she's never experienced it. Freya has. She is a very different character. So I had to work out, because she gets taken away from this camp that has everyone that she cares about now in it, and get other people that she cares about from the camp follow her on this journey. But why would she continue on this journey? There is no reason in hell that she would just be like, okay, well now because I'm away from there, I'm just gonna defeat this bad and it's all fine. That's not how character development or people work. Like, I'm just not like, well, you know, I was real comfy at home, but seeing as I'm at the supermarket now, I'm gonna go kill someone. It doesn't make sense. Even if like, I know her motivations for it, there's just no reason they should be her motivations. She doesn't know the country that she goes back to. She hasn't experienced any of this, so she didn't understand. And then I was like, okay, so really at this point, I need to delay her reunion with the people coming to rescue her. I need her to be on her own 2 feet for a bit longer and get to a point where they're like, okay, we're gonna get you back to safety. And she's like, yes, let's do that. What's happening now? Why can't we get back there and we have to work around this? Oh, we have to work around this, and now I'm experiencing these people and this country and getting a feel for it. But it can't be that bad. This person wouldn't do, like, I know she's evil, but she's not that evil. And then have her face what she was hoping, if she turned a blind eye to, wouldn't happen, happening. And experiences it personally, and then she gets her own torture, which everyone needs to be tortured in this story. And also her own inner strength. So I kind of want it to be, it's not her darkest moment, I know her darkest moment, but pretty much a default darkest moment where she has to overcome this on her own, get her own power from within to defeat it, so she can see that she can fix this. And if she doesn't fix it, no one else is going to. Yeah, sure, if the other guys win that she just left in the camp, they might be able to help her come and defeat it, but this can't go on any longer. That's what I was missing, and that's what I've got the idea for now, where she might experience a torture camp or something. I don't know. Is it kind of a little bit of a YA trope for fantasy? But I also love that trope where you get one of the antagonists, not antagonists, one of the protagonists to like end up in this position, and they have to overcome that position. And that's amazing. Also, I completely decimate her later, so she needs to have some power within and a backbone to be able to work on it on her own, because up until this point, the only way she's been able to protect herself is with words and playing a part. She hasn't had to actually like protect herself. In the camp, we're setting her up to protect herself, but why are we setting her up for that if she never has to do it? That's what I need the payoff for. And now that I know what she ultimately has to do, kind of, I want that. The other thing is, in having this idea about Freya, I realized that there is a character and a mode of travel that we know about this entire time. We have a character that can do it a lot better than everyone else for reasons, and a character that taught all of them how to do it because they all have dark magic. And why the hell do the other two that were like the closest to it and would have taught this other one how to do it, not do it at any point? That is stupid. So I kind of want to put that in the battle or somewhere. It's not something Tamana can do, but I like the idea of it. This is my big picture edit for the second half of the book, because the first act was, yeah, tight, pretty good. I also have put the first act in a Google Drive document and have sent it to my parents, because a long time ago I promised my mom, if I ever let anyone read my writing, I would let her be the first person to do it, because she has been like supportive and stuff. And like, why not? And I got real like cringy about it at first and real anxious. And I'm happy the first people I'm letting read my story are my parents, because at the end of the day, they're always going to love me. They already critique my other creative endeavors, like when it comes to handwork or sewing or something. I turn to them and I go, what do you think? And they'll be like, ooh, that looks a bit weird. And I'm like, well, we're pulling it out and we're starting it again. So I'm used to experiencing or getting criticism back from them. And that I think is a real plus with having them read this, because I can take the criticism. I'm a lot harsher than they are. I am so much harsher. You should see the amount of notes my mum is putting into it compared to what I'm putting into it, because I've realized since giving them the link and the ability to comment, it is a fantastic resource for me. Although I'm treating this as, I'm not touching my original Scrivener for this story at all, apart from to get information or to see my word count for the original draft. I created a second one that I put the first and 0 draft into that I just finished, because I was going to mess around with plotting and structure and like how I was going to plot this. I was totally going to plot like JK Rowling. Still don't want to. I will probably do that in a later draft where I go through everything with a fine-toothed comb, take notes so that I have it. I can tie off things and keep everything consistent, but that isn't a huge issue for me unless I forget about it. And if I'm paying attention to the things that I need to do, I clean it up real fast. Like just in reading it, I was like, oh, these are the things we need to fix and tie off and stuff. But that's one that I'll definitely do in one of my next drafts so that I have like a more solid base. Whereas at the moment, because I'm still doing big picture edits, it needs a lot of work. And because I don't know a lot of Tamana, which I'm working on now, it was proving issues. Now I'm treating the Google document as my second draft, whatever draft we're on with Freya and Tamana, because the first act is definitely like the same draft for both of them now. If I'm going to go in and change anything, I'm doing it in there. I had Tamana saying something in one of them where I'm like, why does she keep harking back to that? Like, I don't bring that in anywhere else. And then I was like, oh my God, that would be the perfect opportunity for it right over there in Act 1. That's where I should have brought it in. So I went back and I brought it in. And it's great. Also, I worked on the introduction of the relationship between the pro tag and the antag of like Freya and my main antag for her. The way that I presented to Mana seeing their relationship. It's just been a whole journey. I'm so excited. I also had like an idea yesterday for a short story told only through dialogue that I'm like, ooh, if I ever get bored of this, I'm totally going over and writing that. But I know I'm gonna have to sit on it for 2 to 3 months, because generally I have the idea. I might write a little bit or plot it, and then I sit on it, and then I write it. And then I sit on it, and then I write it, and then I sit on it for some more. But that's pretty much how camp's going. I'm writing. The issue that I've had is because a lot of it has been revision and deleting words. On the first day that I did it, I think it said I only had like 100 words written, even though I rewrote most of a chapter and I was doing a lot of work for a fair few hours. So instead of deleting words, I have like, you know, split screen. I have it as small as I can over here and a scrap file. So if I delete something, I just Control X or Command X, because it's a Mac, you know, cut it and put it in that and write in there. So normally I'll be like Control X, oh, paste what I deleted. It's not completely accurate. I'm sure there is a setting I can change to fix this, but that's how I'm doing it at the moment. Really, it would be just like any words I delete still count. The only problem with that is sometimes I'll write a sentence, completely delete it and rewrite it, and I don't count those. It's been fun. It's been working on tense and I was reading something in the Google Doc, and I noticed that for some reason throughout that entire document I wrote sometimes and something with 2 E's. There were just stupid little mistakes like that I was like, that doesn't even make sense. That's not how I'm pretty sure I just pressed E too many times, but like it was so stupid. So I had to go through and fix that, which, you know, find and replace. And just like a couple of other things that now I need to know to watch out for. Also spelling stuff. Turns out I can't spell petticoat because I say it petticoat and it's petticoat, not pedi. There was something else. Instead of writing bodice, I wrote bodies, which also makes sense because they would have been stays a lot of the times of bodices, but that It doesn't, no. That's how I'm doing with camp. I'm really happy with my progress and what I'm working on and how I'm fixing it. And I'm going to continue to fix it and work on it, even if I have to. I'm not letting myself be upset with myself if I want to go over a chapter 2 or 3 times to clean it up and get rid of my too much gene. Because I've got that first draft done for Freya and I'm working on the 0 draft for Tamana, but I'm also trying to clean them up together. I'm allowed to edit as I go, as long as I don't get too discouraged. And if I start getting too discouraged, that's when I take the ability off myself and I go, no, you can only write, you can't edit anything. But we'll see how that goes. At work, I'm doing a lot of like repetitive tasks at the moment, and I'm also wearing 3 hats, which has been even more fun. So that's been writing's been a great escape for that, even though I'm on a computer all day at work. One of the girls that we work with, like, we're in a small office. We did have a 5th girl, but over Christmas we found out, like after Christmas we found out we didn't need her anymore. She wasn't adding anything, and apart from more work. So they cut that back because we didn't need an extra person. But it did make me a little bit busier because me and one of the other girls took over. We refer to each other as Kath and Kim. So we shared in taking over her, what little things she was looking after. And we were doing it pretty well and pretty fine and keeping on top of stuff. And then Kim was going to be finishing off this week. Yeah, this week was going to be her last week until Corona hit, because she was moving back to New Zealand and it had to be moved up to the 30th of March because New Zealand were closing the borders. And then she left around like the 15th of March, I want to say, maybe earlier, somewhere around there, because there was 48 hours notice that New Zealand were closing their borders and she needed to get back home. Her other half also needed to get there because he had a new job lined up coming up. And so that was fun for them. So much fun for them. But in doing that, we hadn't been able to find a replacement because I think they just started interviewing people and there hadn't been that right fit yet. All of a sudden I've taken over nearly everything she was doing. And one of the other women in there, because there's 3 of us now, she has taken on some of it as well, and we've been working real well as a team. And like, my boss is also super busy because she had to pick up a lot of the slack with it. So you got the 3 of us just working to the bone. I'm like, I'm Kath and Kim now. And it has just been hectic. Things have been getting behind. I am also the backup for one of the operations team. So when they're down or like sick or something, I take over their job, which is originally what I was before I moved into the office, and then I moved into the office and I'm still that and reception. And so anytime she's sick or something happens with her, I am all of a sudden 3 people, and her job takes priority. Like, that needs to be done. There's a reason I'm the one that does it, because other people haven't been able to get the hang of it or get overwhelmed by it. And I learned that first. Like, that's the easy one to me. It is stressful though, and you have to be able to work with operations and know them well enough so that if they tell you to fuck off or get grumpy at you, you know, oh, what are you fucking dealing with? And then I'll call them back later and be like, so, that thing I was talking about. Or they'll be like, not answering the phone, I'll be like, I need this fucking answer. Or, oh no, I don't need that answer right now. I'll ask them next time I talk to them. So that's fun. And that happened Thursday, where I think she got a migraine again, or she and I both get a lot of migraines. Like, we have chronic migraines and it's lovely, it's so nice, I love migraines. But she was down Thursday and it was just so much fun. At least, like, when that happens, I can still do the function of my job that I need to do, like the absolute minimum of my job that I need to do, I can still do when she's gone. We've got the boys doing one of my jobs, like they share that and do it, and half of her job where it's like certain parts of emails that normally, because she's down there with them, she can answer and find out the answer for and has the time. I don't have the time. I can't do it. If I did it, we attempted. While I'm me and her, it doesn't work. If I'm just her, I can cover it all, it's fine. Me and her, no, it doesn't happen. So I get to email them, me bossy, and be like, you can do this one, thanks. It's great. But they're all real great and supportive in that way. And then the other woman that I work with a lot in the office, she steps up a lot more and she's like, okay, so I'm getting what I need absolutely done in my job done, and we're doing the other few things that we absolutely need to do for your job, and everything else can wait. And even the boss was like, wait, do you guys need any help? What are we doing? And like, we could have hired a new person by now if we found the right one. The only issue being with this COVID-19 stuff, business is changing and everyone's slowing down and also ridiculously busy at the same time, that we don't know what's happening day from day, and we don't have the physical time right now to train someone. Thankfully, in some respects, it has slacked off, so it's easier, but it's a fucking nightmare, but it's fun. And the bossing around the other, it's like, we could get a casual in. But like, having one would be nice, but the things that we need them to do are the little things that would take too much training that we can knock out in a couple of hours, which is why I work today, so I could knock some of them out. But yeah, so that's led itself to like writing, and it's been so much fun. But I'm going to go and actually write. I hope you guys are having a good camp. Let me know how you're going. Have you also tried this stupid deciding to edit straight away thing, or have you had really bad experience with it? Just tell me. I need to know. I need some like objective feedback. Okay, I'll talk to you guys later. Bye.